Hi, I just watched episode 7 of volume 6 of RWBY. This had a lovely balance of my relevant interests in it. I'm going to try and go from the beginning, okay? Difficult for me, you know I ramble, but I'm excited. I'm too tired to show it very much, and I'm trying to be quiet because it's like 2 AM. There we go. So, right at the bat, I think we start with Cinder and Neo in that lovely scene where, like, the chamber of the Relic of Knowledge, where we had the maiden fight on, which was a beautiful set, and I'm glad to see it again. You know, because like I don't know if it was necessarily underutilized, but like any excuse, you know, that was beautiful. And we have a lovely bit in there of Cinder and Neo. Cinder's being her normal villainy self and out to get RWBY, which is good because the writers kind of slipped up a bit with that in volume 5, but they've got right back on that. And her creating knives just to menacingly play with them and then melt them in her hand when she's angry, like a such a Cinder thing, and I love that. 10 out of 10. It's interesting her strategy. Like, I guess you'd have to tell Neo about the stuff anyway, to some degree. I didn't think Neo knew everything already, to be honest. But, yeah, it's just like, I can't kill RWBY, but you can. And it's interesting. I wonder how the writers are gonna plan on executing this, because Cinder's only failed so far because one, RWBY Silver Eyes, which was something she could not have anticipated at all. Like, she didn't know she had eye lasers powered by love. That's not. That's yeah. She did not know that, so she couldn't have anticipated that. So in theory, she should have won there. And the only other thing was because she was too focused on getting revenge instead of Salem's plan, that she slipped up on the plan, and when unexpected things came in, she can adapt to it. But she had sort of allowed those unexpected things to come in, you know, with her plan. Like, if things were done differently, maybe if she went into the chamber with, like, Emerald and Mercury and Hazel against Raven and Vanal, maybe things would have been different, who knows. But, sorry, I'm sick. But, yeah, so she's got that flaw again. She's being much more clever about it, which is good, because Cinder is actually smart. Her writing might have been a bit inconsistent throughout the series, but she's meant to be smart and adapt well to change unless mystical forces are attacking her. So it's nice to sort of see her with Neo. I think this is very much in character. That's top notch. That's good. I like how much attention is being given. Not necessarily attention being given to Cinder, because she's got plenty of attention. It's just like effort in the writing, I suppose. And you see Neo sort of hesitate and then shake her hand. And you're like, This is very much. I don't think Neo is like, oh yeah, now Cinder and I are friends and I am business partners with Cinder now. Now we're gonna go kill RWBY and stuff like that. Like, the last thing Neo heard Roman say was something along the lines of, if you can't beat them, join them, about him joining Team Witch, I guess. The villains, yeah, words, English. But yeah, something along the lines of, if you can't beat them, join them, so she couldn't beat Cinder. Because Cinder is, well, she's a maiden, as she now knows, but yes, there's no way she can just beat Cinder in a straight fight. Because Cinder has incredible powers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Cinder's gonna be the one to take out Neo. There's loads of other things that can happen. I do think that if Neo gets a chance to backstab Cinder and get out of this mess, then she's fairly likely to do that. I think her thing, like, she agreed because she felt like she had to. If you got rid of that sort of pressure, maybe she would leave. It's difficult to tell from the little we've got from her, but there's nothing that implies any love towards Cinder. Just sort of fear, perhaps. She don't think she's terrified of Cinder, but she definitely recognises her as a threat and willing to kill her if she doesn't cooperate, so there's that. Yeah, overall, top notch. I've been talking about the scene for too long. Let's move on. We had that flashback with Maria as the Grim Reaper. People had been wondering what character she was going to be for a while. People were like, oh, she's based on the Day of the Dead, which I think to some degree she is, you know. She's got the sugar skull things. What are they? I can't think of the specific name. Like, you know, the sugar skulls. Used as like offerings and stuff in celebration of the Day of the Dead. And I would have been okay with taking that as face value. Like, is the Day of the Dead a character? Not really, but some of the characters in RWBY aren't necessarily based on anything specific anyway. Some are just based off of concepts, which is absolutely a-okay with me. Like, I don't think Ilya's based off of anything specifically, but she's still one of the most, in my opinion, she's still one of the most compelling characters in RWBY, or at least most interesting. I don't know. She had a lot of agency in the last 2 volumes, but anyway, you know what I mean. I'd have been okay with taking that as face value. And then some people were saying that she's the big bad wolf theory. Because whilst we know that RWBY is based off of Red Riding Hood and the wolf, you know, the wolf also dressed up as the grandma, and we know that some characters in RWBY can be more than one character, or more than one character in RWBY can be the same character, if that makes sense. Like, we've got the whole Yang, Blake and Adam and the whole Beauty and the Beast thing. Like, we know one character could be more than one thing, or different versions of the same thing. So that's not out of the question, but that would mean that Maria would have to betray RWBY. And I hope that doesn't happen. But I'm not going to necessarily, you know, I'm not going to necessarily say no, because who knows what's ever going to happen in RWBY. You know, like, I didn't think a genie was going to pop out of the lamp, and I didn't think we were going to meet Sean's gay sister. Here I now stand, and I didn't think that... and I didn't think that Cinder was going to talk to Miss Muffet. But, it's that kind of show. Which is fine. I like it to some extent. It keeps me on my toes, but yeah. So there was that theory. And now we get she's a Grim Reaper, and I love that she's the Grim Reaper and she's a Grim Reaper. I like that. I like that joke. It's great because it's not only a joke, but it's an apt description. It's very thematic as well. Everything about that flashback was wonderful. I mean, apart from the ticking crocodile's accent, that was very bad. I'm guessing that was meant to be some kind of British accent. Because I think she said in it and love. I'm guessing that's what Trace from Overwatch sounds like or something. It's not very authentic, but that's okay. They can have some bad accents if they want, that's fine. But everything about that flashback pretty much was stunning. It's just the setting, the character design of young Maria. Even Maria herself was stunning. I didn't expect young Maria to be that hot, which is... I don't know how to feel about that, but there we go. I say we only see her face for like a split second before something horrible happens to her, so I feel a bit bad saying that. Yeah, the set design was beautiful. We got to see a giant Nevermore again, and in these graphics with that backdrop and everything, all these things accumulated together. It's very lovely. It was great because we got to see that beforehand, which allows us to see like how her weapons work and how she fights. We get to see her live up to her title and the title of the episode, and it just shows how she used her silver eyes and stuff like that as an actual like weapon on purpose, because she seemed to save it up for the right moment. It doesn't seem to be a thing you can just constantly just do. It's nice because it sets up the fight very well. I think if the fight just happened without the context, it might not have been so fulfilling. Because, like, they showed that she was a badass and really powerful, and someone sent really powerful people after her. Multiple of them. I'm trying not to repeat myself, but the fight itself was very good. I mean, when you compare this fight to like the fights in the last, especially the last few episodes of Volume 5, that was when people were most complaining about the fights in that volume, I would say. Because common criticisms being like, the camera stayed still and the fight happened, but some people were in the background and didn't move, and some people made weird decisions and it didn't feel natural. Whereas this, the camera moved with the fight, so it was much more immersive. It was very dynamic. Like a character would go one way and the camera would follow them. Like on a TV show, it wouldn't just stay in one place and then they just mirror, which that can be done in a good way. Don't get me wrong, I've seen it, but it's really important to try and frame the scene well if you can, especially with like animation and drawing things. You've got to frame things right, and everything in like that was done, I'd say, extremely well. It helped bring out the best parts of the fight. It was a very quick pace. It was just really satisfying to watch until everything went wrong. And we knew things would go wrong because we saw that Maria had those goggles. And everyone was like, oh, she was a Silver-Eyed Warrior, and someone ripped out her eyes or something like that. And some people were like, no, that's too dark for Ruby. And I was like, well, I remember sitting there thinking, well, maybe it is, but at the same time, like, Cinda had her fingers in someone's organs, and like, episode 13, the Maiden fight episode, you know, like how Vanel died. She didn't just shoot her in the head, she just stuck her claws in her organs and twisted until Vanel stopped moving. So, yeah. I was like, is that dark? I suppose, but we've had dark in this show. I don't see why this couldn't happen, and then it happened, and it's like, oh dang. Really weren't joking about the show getting darker. I could see why they wouldn't want this volume on YouTube. I could see why some of the things in it that we've got so far would go against the guidelines. You know, like the blood and the monsters and Jin. I don't think giant blue titties are YouTube friendly or Tumblr friendly. That's gonna age this video. But yeah, that was all very satisfying to watch, and also the eyes thing was quite brutal. Like, she screamed and she just kept making noises, as I suppose you would. I don't think we've got, apart from Vanel's death and Lionheart's death, although I can't complain as much about Lionheart's death making me feel uncomfortable, because I did not like him from the start, so I was kind of content that he died, if that doesn't sound creepy. I don't know. I knew Lionheart was fake, so I wasn't invested in him trying to redeem himself. I was like, no, you're out, and then he was taken out. For now, I was much more invested in, so her painful death was kind of painful to watch. Maria's thing is sort of reminiscent to that, because she didn't die. Still I can get that might imply some weird things. I meant about the screaming and the noises and like the pain sort of trying to fumble for our weapons being quite difficult to watch, and as a viewer it's not on the same level of a death at all, but it's quite a traumatic event. It was a good scene. As a writer, I'm very satisfied with that scene, but it is difficult to watch, so I can't really say, oh yeah, I enjoyed that scene. But you get what I mean. I think it was done very well. I don't think it's meant to be happy, fun times to watch. But, it's a good example of setting things up. We had the sort of rule of three with Maria's weapons. She used them on the Nevermore, and she used them in that fight there, and then she used them again on the ticking crocodile and took her out with the purple thing. That's what I'm going to call it, the purple thing. You understand what I mean with that onomatopoeia and stuff, but it's like they showed it and then they showed it, so when it happened, it wasn't like that power came out of nowhere. Silver Eyes. But it wasn't like that power came out of nowhere. It was like, no, we've shown you how this works and that she can do it. And she's in a position to do it now, so she does it. And it's top notch because, you know, she can do this. This is how this works. And this works. And she can do this in order to save her life. So she will do this. Because we've had that power a couple of times previously in RWBY where characters get or use abilities which weren't really shown very well or explored very well in the past, or they have these abilities that we know that exist and they don't use them when they really should in a situation where they would in fact use them. And we haven't really had that so far in this volume. I think everyone's choices have made sense, well, apart from Ozpin and Salem's, but like, I think the whole backstory episode was that I think the whole point was everyone there made really bad decisions. I think that was the point of that episode. Meanwhile, in the episode, people are thinking and planning, or if they're in situations where they can't think and plan, like having your eyes just sliced through and being blinded. Like, I don't know how much you can plan for that, but she did. She was resourceful. She thought quickly. That was a TH thought, but she also did fight very quickly. That was, overall, I'd say that was just it was just a really good scene. I wasn't really expecting much in terms of flashbacks. We haven't really had flashbacks in the show proper before. We've had character shorts, but I can't really think of any flashbacks off the top of my head other than Cinder, Emerald and Mercury. Other than that, no. Unless you count Yang explaining some backstory to Blake and that thing we got in Burning the Candle. But yeah, I wouldn't count that. We haven't really got much flashbacks proper. Oh, the backstory episode. But yeah, so it seems like requested things we're getting, but also like this Maria episode would have been written before we met Maria, and as soon as we met Maria, we wanted to know her backstory. So it's good. I feel like the writers are sort of thinking about how the fans are going to react to something, what they're going to want. Because it's difficult, because like with not to say that writing a book is easier, but like with a book, a lot of the time someone will write, the book, and then obviously they'll have to edit it a lot. Like, writers will get this. I'm saying I'm a writer a lot. I'm not much of a writer, but if you're going to write a book, for anyone that's never really thought about it, like, you're going to go through a lot of versions, and it's going to take a lot to write one version, and you're going to have to edit so much. And part of all of this process, from writing the book to getting it published properly, is sort of like, you get like beta readers and stuff, and alpha readers, and also sensitivity readers, there's all kinds of readers. But to go through it and just sort of give feedback. I haven't done it myself, but we haven't got anywhere near that point yet, but it's an important part of the writing process to get feedback. So I'm saying, like, if you're doing it as a book, you would be like, okay, here is this entire book, a small amount of people who specifically do this and should ideally know what they're talking about. Look over it, I get feedback, I act on the feedback, and then I put this out there. With a TV series, you can't do that. Like, you write it all, and you can tell some people, I guess, that work there specifically, but not too many, because the show of this caliber, spoilers will get, their rubies become a bit more famous, let's say. A bit more mainstream, maybe? I don't know if that's a better word. But, spoilers could happen really quickly. They were like, oh yeah, we'll just get some fans to look over the script. I don't know if that's necessarily. Anyway, you get it. But, books aren't usually released chapter by chapter. TV shows usually, unless it's like Netflix, released episode by episode. So they would have to anticipate what viewers are going to want after watching an episode. And they've done that pretty well, I would say. Because as soon as I saw Maria, I wanted to know about her. But in order for me to see Maria, she would already have to be in the trailers, which were made of the first few episodes, which they have written and animated. So she and her backstory existed before I could even think to want to know her backstory. So they already were like, yeah, they're going to want to see exactly what kind of person she is and stuff like that. I feel like I've spent too long lingering on this subject, but my point is, I feel like their writers are making progress, which really, like, I hope that doesn't sound condescending in any way, because I'm actually really pleased by that, because I feel like a lot of creators can sometimes, I feel like there's a weird attitude towards feedback and criticism, because on one end, there's sort of like, the original creator's vision is always right and untouchable, and if you try and change that, you're wrong, to mess with a genius sort of thing. And on the other end, it's like, sort of, the writer doesn't know what they're doing, I need to tell them exactly what they're doing because I know better. And like, both of these, like, real far away sort of opposites are generally quite sort of, I was going to say not necessarily popular, but you know, on the internet, people are generally can be quite loud about their opinions, and it's generally what I see is one or the other, and not a good middle ground, because things change and adapt over time, and you need to get the criticism, and then you need to find the good criticism from the bad criticism, and then you need to decide how to act upon that, and then you need to act upon that naturally in a way which integrates with your idea, instead of just scrapping it, unless it's that unworkable, but that seems unlikely, unless, I don't know, you'd have to write something truly terrible to be beyond saving. But I feel like the writers are making progress and adapting. I don't know. That just makes me really happy to see. I like to see people around me get better, I guess. It makes me happy, especially with things I'm invested in, like RWBY. But that was a bit of a tangent. But speaking in terms of progress, like, as much as I loved that scene with Ruby and Juniper together, and seeing this lovely location, and all the graphics and the planning and the new lore that's been added, you know, I'm going to linger on a certain couple. It made my heart happy to see. It really did. Like, I was not invested in seeing anything about Sean's background or anything. Like, I just legit did not care. I'm not a Sean fan. I feel like the way the writers wrote him in volumes 1 to 3 it was really bad. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. But yeah, so ever since, even though he's starting to be written better, because of the nature of, like, the specific nature of how he was written in the first 3 volumes, it made me uncomfortable just to sort of see him again. But now they're actually doing some good sort of stuff around him, instead of focusing on him and Weiss, which was yuck. But anyway, it really made me happy to meet his sister. and I did not expect to say that. It was a real surprise for me. I did find out this was another spoiler I'd gotten, because even when I do try to avoid the internet as much as I can concerning RWBY, there are some things that have been spoiled to me, and I'm guessing I'll continue to get spoilers, but I found out about Jean's sister, and I was like, oh, okay, we see Jean's sister, and then I found out that we see Jean's sister and her partner, and then that made me kind of excited. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me, because I was a bit nervous that, okay, so you know there's an interview where Barb Yang's voice actor, Barbara, said something along the lines of, there'll be an LGBT character seen in this season of RWBY. We think you'll really like it, and sort of smiled. And that obviously sent fans crazy. And people were sort of, I don't know, it was good and bad crazies, but of course that did make me very happy, but I was sort of scared that it was going to be like this one background character by themselves who we would never see again or something, or that it would be some kind of Dumbledore situation where like they're there and then it was like, we didn't mention it because it wasn't relevant to the story. But the couple that we saw in the show, I think it was done very well. I'm hoping that they're not the only LGBT characters we see, and I'm hoping that some of the more main characters, the reoccurring characters we see, are going to be confirmed as LGBT, obviously, because there are so many girls in the main character group. Like, you know, at least two of them have got to be gay or bi or something, like, statistically speaking, even if you don't ship bees or anything, like, statistically speaking, come on. But yeah, so I hope we get more, but what we did see made me very happy, because it was just treated as normal, and that's such a weird thing for me to say, because, like, obviously they're a couple, but some people honestly don't get that. Like, I can barely think of anything, like any shows or anything I've seen where like two women just got together and no one made any weird comments, or there was no sort of coming out arc or mentions of homophobia or and obviously those stories do have their place. You know, I'm not saying you can never write a story where a character experiences homophobia or has some kind of realizations about themselves, because obviously you need those stories, but at the same time, sometimes it's good to just have people that exist in our world exist in this fantasy setting, and for everyone to be able to just be immersed in it, you know? Like, I love fantasy stories where there's no misogyny, you know? Things like that. It's just, you know, everyone should just be able to be like, imagine themselves in this world. I like those stories a lot as well. I think they're very important. So this one just brought a smile to my face, because no one made any weird comments or anything. They were just acting all cute, just sort of experiencing the sort of I don't know, the positive sort of vibes in that household. It was very sweet. It was very warm. It's very loving. And I don't know, the relationship was just depicted as like such a normal, warm, happy, healthy relationship. And it doesn't feel, I'm saying these things, which isn't a long checklist, but it's a checklist that barely anyone likes to fulfill. Or if they do fulfill, their works, you know, don't get out there or get censored or something, because that's happened. But it makes me happy because it feels like Rooster Teeth is sort of trying in regards to representation a bit. Like, you had the whole thing with Pilot Boy, where they were like, oh, we can't say he's the first gay character because bury your gays. And they brought Ilya into things, and now there's this. It's good. And just, I mean, what I'd really like is bees being confirmed, so I know that I'm not being queerbaited or something, but I don't know. It can be very hard to trust right now when shows have happened that have done very bad things in terms of representation, like the 100 and Voltron. I'm not saying that RWBY's necessarily on this level, but it can be difficult to argue with the pessimist in you when you've had faith in a show and it's betrayed you, sort of thing, you know? So, I don't know, this gave me some hope. Like, I want to trust the writers. I think this is very sort of, despite like 2 out of the 3 moments being quite tense, you know, someone being like, oh yeah, you can go and kill the main character, and then another character being blinded. That last scene did give me a bit of hope, and I'm glad they ended on that. Oof. Sorry, that was a lot for me. I got a bit emotional seeing that. I'm going to be real with you. That just made me happy. You need something pure in like dark series every once in a while, because you don't want to get grim dark. You got to have the happy things with all like the miserable things. Otherwise, it just becomes like this blur of nihilism, and there's no stakes at all. You got to have both, and they've got that both, and they managed to do that in a really good way, and I'm really satisfied with that. Like, I've only just met this family. If anything happens to them, I would be so upset. I would be so upset. I don't think that would necessarily happen because, like, I don't know, this might be like the first time in like history where you can't kill your lesbian characters now because of the controversy you'll get and the amount of people that will drop your show. It might be the first time where lesbians have had plot armor instead of death flags. I don't know, real cultural turning point. I joke, but that's yeah. Oof. Sorry about my rambling. I liked this episode. There was a lot in it for me. And this is going to be such a long video, and I apologise about that. It's going to be so much longer than the actual episode. And I spoke a bit about the episode when I was reacting to it. I just have a lot of feelings, okay? god. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't know when I'm gonna upload it, and I don't know when I'm gonna upload the next couple, because I've got the Christmas break coming up, and I've also got a deadline coming up, and I have so much work to do on top of the Christmas and New Year break, and that is always a really hectic time for me, so I don't know if I'm going to have time to do these videos, because to react to a show and then to talk about it and film it, that can take like an hour, and then there's uploading it and creating the thumbnail and doing the tags, which can take a bit as well. So you know, that could be time doing coursework. That's my sort of, I have to trade off my time, which is sad, because I would love to just react to all these shows that people have been telling me to watch, like finish the Dragon Prince and She-Ra and watch those and like talk about them, and like in terms of as a viewer and also technically and things like that. But unfortunately, there's not enough hours in a day, is there? But yeah, another tangent. I apologise. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll try to upload if and when I can, and I hope you have a good day.